Good afternoon, Abigail. Well, I'll be speaking to the head of academics at the University of Pretoria. And at the moment, the campus is fairly peaceful. Classes are going on as usual. He is now joining me. He is Mr. Kabelo Motlhakane. Good afternoon, sir. What is your reaction on the recommendations that Minister Nzimande just made?
Good afternoon. I think just based on the announcement that was made by the minister, I think, see that no actual decision was made, but the impact is what we're most worried about, because from the instruction or the announcement in itself, the minister indicated that the universities will separately have to make a decision in terms of how the increase will be adjusted, and the increase can go up to 8%, and therefore the government will take responsibility for your poor students and probably subsidizing them 100%. And the missing middle is always our big question to say, how do we then cater for those? But as the University of Pretoria, we haven't made a concrete decision, because we still have to engage with our students, because our mandate as the SRC is to first engage with the students, hear what the students need and want, so that we can better cater for them. And in saying that, we feel and believe that it is absolutely essential for free education to be given to those who cannot afford it, given the new dispensation of our country and the previous dispensation empowering those who you could say advantaged. And so our mission is mainly to make sure that those who cannot afford can be taken care of and not be excluded from this elitist structure of education.
Is there a possibility of a protest after engaging the students?
I think preempting a protest would be in itself quite premature, but we are hoping that in our engagement as the SRC with our students, we'll reach a conclusion which will then allow us to go to management and say to them, as the students, this is what we would like to advise, and then hopefully reach a decision based on that. But in terms of a protest, like I said, it would be absolutely premature of me to preempt the outcome. But at this point in time, you can see that our campus is still fairly stable and as always, moving as it's supposed to. But I think action should be expected or post the decision. So right at this point in time, it's really no here or there.
Thank you. Well, that was Kabelo Motlhakane, who is the head of academics at the University of Pretoria. Back to you in studio.
Well, thank you very much, Tegofatso. Let's head over to the University of Wits, where ANSM reporter Judith Diacanyo is on standby. Good afternoon to you, Judith. What is the feeling and sentiment amongst the students there at the University of Witwatersrand?
A very good afternoon to you in studio, and yes, we are at Wits, where students are not happy or they're not satisfied, saying that they only want a 0% increase. They don't want anything besides that. With me, I do have the SRC Secretary General, Fasiha Hassan. Fasiha, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. Just tell us what is currently going to happen. It has been announced that there's a total shutdown at Wits. Take us through there.
We've just heard Minister Nzimande's announcement. He has spoken about a moratorium being covered for the poor and the missing middle. But unfortunately, it looks like the state has again missed the point. The fact is, when we took to the streets last year, where we are now, our primary demand is free and quality education. Because the fact is, in 2015, we couldn't afford the fees. I cannot afford the fees today, and I am not going to be able to afford the fees in 2017. All we've done is freeze fees. They've not fallen. Access to education remains closed. We need a greater structural solution to the crisis that is higher education. And that structural solution is, in fact, free and quality education.
Fasiha, the minister did say that there are those parents that can afford to pay fees, which is why you've got those students that can pay. Take us through your feelings with regards to that. Do you feel that should it be 0% for everybody, regardless of whether they come from a background where they can afford to pay school fees?
The first is that, remember, free education is a long-term marathon, and you must address those who need it the most first, i.e. free education for the poor and the missing middle. But where we are currently with an increment, it's a very divisive tactic by the state to say we'll only pay for some and not for others. It is an attempt to demobilize, and it is an attempt to derail the student movement and shift focus from the greater issue, like I've said. But number two, We're not saying that we are unreasonable. We're not closed off to engagements. The difficulty and the anger that has really been emerged today that you have seen behind us is the fact that for months we've been engaging. For months we've gone to meetings with the minister, meetings with the Department of Higher Education and institutions of higher learning, and we've raised these points. These are not new points. And yet again, we feel like we've not been taken seriously. Minister also spoke about the fact that councils will now be setting, again, fee increments, which basically is one of the crisis issues we raised last year. The councils of institutions are exorbitantly raising fees without any intervention from the state. So in many ways, we find ourselves in the same position we did last year before fees must fall. And that for us is heartbreaking.
And then just the final question, the announcement from the minister, did it take you by surprise? Is it a matter of the percentage that you received? Does it make a difference whether it's 6% or 8%, or is it just a 0% that you are looking for?
We're looking for a moratorium, which is 0. And we acknowledge money must come into the system, and that's why we're saying that whether it's 6, 8, 10, whatever number is chosen, it cannot be students who bear the brunt thereof. But I think there's a lot of disappointment from us. The Commission on Free Education, the terms of reference are highly problematic as well. It's investigating the mere feasibility, a yes or no to free education, as opposed to how are we going to realize it. And in many ways for us, we feel like our only option now is to go back to the streets. And that is disheartening. After constantly trying to engage, after trying to come to some form of amicable solution, we now again have to go through protest action.
Thank you so much for your time.